Are you able to see the recording indication on your screen?
Yes, it's recording.
Recording as well as FB Live.
Yes, both are able to see.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead. So let's start with positive thought. So I just thought that why not positive thought from my Guruji, which he shared for today, into the contest, that do or die is the old fashion and do it before die is the best one. So I think our participant, all our panelists will also agree with, all this kind of thought. But I'm also really sorry that I also missed to welcome by all the panelists and participants. So, good morning, good afternoon, and very good evening to all our thought leaders and to all our participants who are joining us from multiple timelines across the world. And we are very, very grateful to joining for this, knowledge sharing session. So, what is your view, participant or thought leaders, that how this thought is there that we should do it before die? That is the best thought. So if you agree with me, please write in your chat box. Please write in your chat box if you agree with this. Do it before die. Please write in your chat box. Do it before die. Do it before die. Okay. So our program flow will be like this, that I will give some quick start presentation on the subject, and then that will be followed by 5 of our very powerful thought leaders who will share their experiences. I have devised some very common questions which they can answer relevant to their own context and considering their own experiences, their own thoughts. And after that, we will have some question answer session. One will be from the Sharmila, she is a media rep of the TOI group, and followed by some question answer we will take from the audience section as well. So audience can also write their questions in QA, box that we can take in this session.
Jain Sahab, I think Mr. Ritik Jassar is there on, he's a panelist, he's there, he's already joined. So you need to add him in the panelist if you want.
Because I will just finish this, presentation and then take again. Let me. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I am making her co-host.
I think he has to start his video. That's what then only.
Mr. Ritik, are you able to listen me?
Yes, he has now started his video.
Yes.
Are you able to listen me, Ritik ji?
Yes. Yes, sir. I can hear you clearly, and I can see all the panelists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let me start. So our key questions to all our thought leaders are that what are the challenges faced by real estate developers in current crisis? And what is your understanding of stimulus package for real estate business as a government? Because what is happening, since I am dealing a lot of clients, so I am getting different versions from all of my clients. So I am really interested to know from all of my thought leaders who are holding very senior level executive positions in your group, that what is your understanding of stimulus packages? Because on one hand, the government is saying we have done a lot of things for the benefit of the real estate business, and on other, the real estate developers are struggling. They are saying it is not enough. They cannot, steer the situation, steer the crisis. So we would like to know what is your understanding, your version for that. And number third, what is your action plan to tap the benefits of stimulus package to sell the current crisis? Because it is very important. Just announcing the stimulus package is not, sufficient until and unless you are able to implement in your respective companies, in your respective projects. But don't think that the intent and the whole idea and objective of announcing such a big stimulus package can be met up. So we would like to know that what is your plan to tap the benefits? This is just a general. So let's move on. The key discussion points are a snapshot of the real estate sector in India. And, there has been a series of setbacks. I have tried to figure out that what is the landscape of series of setbacks which our real estate sector is facing for quite a long time. What is the new game plan for real estate developers amid COVID-19? And some quick bites of stimulus packages for real estate, and some way forward, some thoughts from I. So let's start with the positive note. That is, if you see the snapshot of real estate business in India, so you will find a good picture and big opportunities which are available for real estate developers in India. You can see that construction ranks third among the 14 major sectors in terms of indirect and induced effects in all sectors of the economy. It is the second largest employer, and real estate sector has expected to reach a market size of US $1 trillion by 2030 from the current size of US $120 billion. So you can see jump, exponential growth which is expected from the sector. And according to DPIIT, it is the fourth largest sector in terms of FDI inflows. And top of that, recently you are very well aware of that SEBI has recognized a real estate investment trust, and it is expected that this platform would create an opportunity worth rupees $1.25 trillion in the Indian market over the years. So now, if you see the big picture of real estate industry, it shows a very promising future ahead for the real estate industry in India. So now coming some setbacks, which as I mentioned earlier, that what a real estate sector is facing for quite some years. So I have just tried to capture from the 2014 onwards, although there have been many before that, but I have taken recently because these setbacks are in series and there have not been any kind of relaxation, any kind of some kind of good situation for the real estate developers, and from one by one our real estate industry is facing these kind of setbacks. So you can start from the slowdown that happened early in 2014, then demonetization by end of 2016, then this advent of the RERA regime that was happened in mid of the 2017, then side by side GST, entirely all the tax regime has been changed. So the real estate industry find very difficult to fine tune and to align themselves in a new tax regime. That happened also concurrently in mid 2017. And then IBC also in 2017 in terms of operational creditors, because a lot of real estate company was facing challenges from their operational creditors because they were very poorly exposed, because they were not having enough kind of documentation to handle these kind of challenges. So whatever their pending dues were there, So their operational characters capitalized this law and provided lot of challenges to the real estate developers. And in 2018, one more landscape of IBC has changed when the buyers has been given the status of the unsecured financial creditors. So that has changed the complete paradigm shift of the IBC, and lot of cases happened to overnight, which against the real estate developers. So either they were compelled to settle the these kind of disputes at exorbitantly high terms and condition, or go for the CRP process. So that was a very, very big blow on them. And most recently, you all are very aware of this COVID-19, early 2020, and still ongoing. Nobody knows how much it will go and what will be the status of this particular thing in our real estate industry. So it is again an ongoing kind of situation. So now, what is the new game plan for real estate developers? If you see, amid COVID-19, what is the situation of real estate developers? What are the new challenges? What are the new game plan? What are the new game rules for the real estate developers? So I have tried some points to point it out. These are not exhaustive list. You can make your own kind of thought process. You can apply your own perspectives in your own context and have your own ideas. But just briefly speaking, I have tabulating some kind of ideas for new game plan. So first of all, there is a development of robust virtual system. So now clients connection is happening through online. So now that is a big challenge for the real estate developers, because the sale of the real estate product is a very, very high ticket size sale, and it is a involvement of the emotional contact. जब आप किसी को घर बेचते हैं तो घर एक केवल उसके लिए प्रोडक्ट नहीं होता, उसके लिए एक सपना होता है, उसकी जिंदगी के लिए एक सपना होता है कि उसको एक घर चाहिए, उसको एक छत चाहिए. तो जब वो एक रियल डेवलपर से कनेक्ट करता है तो उस सेलिंग प्रोसेस में बहुत सारा इमोशनल कंटेंट, इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, इमोशनल कैपेबिलिटीज जो उस डेवलपर की होती है, वो भी जो है वो कस्टमर कनेक्ट में करने में, कस्टमर से डील क्लोज करने में हेल्पफुल होती है. बट नाउ ऑल ऑफ सडन all the real estate players are on the same front because the physical connects are not happening. So you have to depend on the online content and online interactions. And secondly, that expected increase in demand of new workplace. Now due to this physical distance situations, due to ongoing COVID-19 kind of crisis, the entire landscape of the workplaces has been changed. So now you need to have in your project, whatever your projects are going, you have to design as per the COVID-19 challenges. For example, you have to include some digital and health-oriented workplaces such as touch-free elevators, dedicated disinfect zone, and quarantine rooms. So these are putting all together extra challenges to the real estate developers, because they have to make a provision for extra cost for all these kind of facilities, which they have not provided for in their original plans. And third one is that now since RBI has cut down the interest rate, so although real estate sector has become very, very attractive from the investment perspective, but now the burden lies on the developers, that how they can negotiate good deals for ready to move options. Because you know that we need to, as a real estate developers, distinguish between our ongoing inventory and our ready to move inventory, because we are entitled to charge some kind of premium. So now it is up to you that how we can negotiate good deals for such kind of inventory available with us. And next is with the increasing trend of work from home, now it is forecasted that the medium and long-term demand for smaller pre-configured space on flexible terms will be increased. Means whatever our new space demand will be there, their configuration will be altogether different. So we have to fine tune our product, we have to redesign our product, we have to redesign our service offerings from the perspective of the current ongoing challenges and the requirement of the current environment. And now these traveling patterns are also expected to shift. Now this is also can give you big kind of opportunity, because now the traveling plan will be more of the dive to resort kind of destination, and where there is a low density, such area can attract a good kind of demand and good kind of investment, and where we can have open spaces to avoid gatherings. And exploration of the other market is also very important, because as of now our industries are heavily dependent on China. So now we have to explore some alternate sources, that how we can procure items. We cannot rely on China. You are very well aware of that what is happening. Lot of critical product of the COVID testing kits and all these PPE kits, they have ultimately come to very bad quality. So we cannot rely on the China, and we cannot have such kind of dependence. So we have to develop our alternate options, alternate procurement channels to cater this kind of challenge. And reverse migration, now I would like to take some time for this particular area, because what is happening that it have been a biggest opportunity for real estate developers, because what is happening due to migration from rural to urban and due to rapid urbanization of the cities, the real estate industry grown rapidly in leaps and bounds. But now reverse is happening. Now the rural people are now migrating from urban area to the rural area. So now there is a big challenge for real estate developers, because the market which is available for demand from such kind of people. So now there is a change, there is a tremendous shift of the density of such people in the density of such places which earlier these developers were targeting for. And then your manpower will also be reduced. You have to plan for, because now you will not have readily available your manpower for your very common kind of services like housekeeping, merchandising, and maintenance facilities. That has also been gone down. And now customer sentiment is also a very, very high time low, because this is a very, very uncertain kind of environment. So now the customer sentiments are very, very all time low. But before I close this new game plan, I will close this my part with the positive thought, because a lot of my clients is asking, Pankaj, what is your view? How industry will go? We are really very worried. तो मेरा उनसे एक ही कहना होता है, सर आप जो है बिल्कुल चिंता मत करिए, लोग बाग अब घर की कीमत बहुत अच्छी तरह समझ गए हैं, लोगों को पता लग गया है, सारी दुनिया में रास्ते बंद हो जाते हैं, उनका ऑफिस बंद हो जाता है, सारे धार्मिक स्थल बंद हो जाते हैं, सारे माल बंद हो जाते हैं, लेकिन घर एक ऐसी जगह है जहां पर अल्टीमेटली उनको शरण मिलती है, जहां पे उनको एक कंपेल करा जाता है, आप घर में रहिए, घर में ही काम करिए। तो मेरा अपना इसमें व्यू है कि आने वाले टाइम में, क्योंकि एक घर की इम्पोर्टेंस बहुत बढ़ गई है, so considering all these challenges, the demand for homes will go up, because earlier those particular segment, particularly our young segment, who were more focusing on the rental kind of facilities, so now they will seriously look for the permanent option of owning home. So I feel that with that positive note, I can move further. Now some quick bites for the reliefs announced by Government of India. So I will just go through little faster, because I am sure all of our participants are very well educated, very well aware of. So I will not take much bite. I will just browse these slides very instantly. So I will touch upon this third part. This is very important, that the RBI has extended, because what is happening due to many problems, some projects, the professionals who are engaged in the real estate funding, they know how important the DCCO is, because that your project become NPA if you do not achieve your this DCCO, despite you are paying all your dues in time, but technically your project become NPA. So it is very important that it has been extended for next 1 year. And then the moratorium on NBFC loan to a commercial real estate has also been extended without any change in classification. And this 50,000 crore, the RBI open this TLRTO, this incremental liquidity to NBFC. So now NBFC can use this window, and they can take collateral based loans from the RBI through this window. So again, some measures were taken by RBI. So I have staged the reliefs for the reference of the all participants. So now let's come to the last part, that our Honorable Prime Minister announced 20 lakh crore package on 12th of this month, and then after 13 months and 14th and 15th and 16th and 17th, on 5 consecutive days, our Honorable Finance Minister announced the package of the these 20 lakh crore backup, because some part of package was already announced earlier by RBI and by other agencies, but whatever the remaining part was there. So our FM announced in 5 tranches for these 13 to 17 May. So I've just listed out some of the important points which I think are important from the real estate. So I am coming to this third part. This is very important that now COVID-19 is an event of force majeure under RERA, because all who are working in real estate sector, they know that how important the RERA planning, the RERA implication on real estate businesses. And thirdly, that all the projects are now advised that they can go for extension without any individual application. Now, concerned RERA authority are advised to extend these projects for next 6 months. So whatever projects are expiring after 25th March, that was the starting date of the lockdown, so they can got this benefit. This is a new thing which the government has announced for the benefit of the real estate sector, because as I mentioned earlier, that reverse migration is happening. So in order to give this reverse migration a opportunity to the real estate developers, the government has come with some kind of guidelines where the government is proposing that whatever government funded projects are going on, so they will consider it into as an affordable rental housing complex. And the private developers with tie up with the government, they can develop in public-private partnership mode through concessionaire. And some kind of more incentive has been announced for industries to again develop affordable rental housing complexes within their industries, within their factories, so that their workers need not to go outside. The idea is that if any corona crisis like situation is emerged in future, because you never know, now the news are coming, you can expect more than hard corona type of situation in times to come. So now we have to plan according to future, which is very uncertain. So now this is also a proposed this plan that whatever industries are going on, they should encourage their labor. They should encourage their manpower to remain within their periphery, which they can build for their own dedicated purpose. So government is also giving some kind of incentive. This one more dose was the in the shape of this scheme which government announced earlier, and that scheme was the capital subsidy scheme for the middle income group ranging from 6 lakhs to 80 lakhs per annum. So there was a subsidy up to 2.5 lakhs in the shape of the loan interest, whatever loan interest is there. So government also subsidized to the tune of 2.5 lakhs. So earlier this was about to expire in March 20, but now government has extended for next 1 year. So it is hopeful that it will further encourage affordable and middle housing segment of real estate sector. Now it is also very encouraging. Now there is a changing in insolvency and bankruptcy code, although it is not directly giving any benefit to real estate. But as I mentioned in my earlier discussion, that IBC is also giving lot of challenges to the real estate industry. So now one challenge is Government of India has taken care of, because now not a single buyer can file the application for CIRP. At least 100% 100 buyers or some minimum percentage of buyers are required to file this CRP application. So that relief is there. But now, due to this moratorium of this 1 year under COVID-19, the one relief the developers can get from their vendors, from their contractors, in terms of whatever their creditors are there. So at least they can have some kind of relief, because now their creditors cannot go for under CIRP in case some dues are unpaid or some default is made. And specifically, if any default is made due to any debt that is related to COVID-19, so under the definition of default, that has been specifically excluded. So now way forward is, I think I have taken too much time, so I will just take the bullet point. Okay, I think I will only take one point, that from the real estate perspective, one is the weak demand, and another is the lack of the credit. That is a main challenge in my view. So I think now government has taken some kind of incentive so to just address the challenges from these two angles, from the credit angle, from the weak demand angle. So now the real estate developers can check out their plan to take this benefit. Now I will close my kickstart presentation and start the thought process of our thought leaders. But I would conclude with my two thoughts. First of all, again, this is a very positive thought that our Indian industry is very, very competitive globally, because that is the matrix which I used to share with all the real estate developers, that you see the other industry in India that is struggling in terms of competitiveness, but Indian real estate is 10 times competitive globally. For the simple metrics, our country is having 20% headcounts of the world, but in terms of land, we only have 2% land area of the world. So in my view, we become globally competitive 10 times for real estate business. So that is a very, very positive note which our real estate developers can plan their strategy. So I will quickly, because I think I have taken some time more, so we will go faster. First of all, I will invite Manoj Jain ji.
Thank you, sir.
Just give me a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Your video is not there, Manoj ji.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just hold on.
My video is.
Yeah. I will take this opportunity to take few seconds. Manoj Jain ji is fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has held very senior level positions in his career spanning for last 25 years, like FTP and Company, Rajasthan Spinning Mills, Shasti Infrastructure. And for last 8 years, he is working as Director Finance with Saya Group, a real estate developer in residential segment, recognized for on-time deliveries in Ghaziabad and Noida. Over to you, Manoj ji. The questions I have already mentioned in my slide earlier, so you can take from them. Yes.
Thank you very much, Jain Saab, and giving me this opportunity to speak in this particular forum. Very renowned persons I am seeing on my laptop here. So the three questions you have posed: what are the challenges in the current times for the real estate industry? So currently, I can say on each and every front, problems are always there, but the solutions are again there. I always think that when there is a problem, there is a solution. So what are the challenges? Challenges are on all fronts. If we come from the sales thing, due to this particular pandemic, what I feel the mid segment and everybody, they are finding an area where they see that there are job losses and the pay cuts. And this real estate, if you think that real estate is a long-term investment or a long-term loan kind of thing, so people are not taking, or they are taking the decisions very lately. They are deferring the decisions to buy the properties. So this is one of the challenge which psychologically has affected a lot the people. So the decisions of real estate buying has deferred. So now, as people are talking, we have to approach the buyers in a different manner. Site visits are not happening. We have to contact them digitally. Or we have to create a culture. We have to interact with our customers through digital, platforms, the social media. We have to conduct different kind of surveys so that we can come to know what kind of requirements are in these areas. And so far as the operations part is concerned, the challenges in operational part are also there. The reverse migration of the labor. And in this part, always, in the month of May and June, labor generally goes back to their places. But what happens in this particular year? We are into fear whether they will come back or not, and how much time they will take to come back. So now the government has allowed to start the construction, but the construction is not happening. First thing, because the labor and the logistic issues for the material. So this kind of hitches are there. So the labor, so when the labor is already gone, so we have to try. This is a solution again. We have to try and convince our customers to, after 10-15 days they should go to the labor areas. They should convince them, and we have to plan good hygienic conditions for their stay here. We have to plan the kind of festivals. They should feel relevant to the industry. They should not feel that the Delhi or Mumbai or these kind of big cities, they have not times. They went away. Now some people are thinking that they will not come back. But the time will come. We have to go there and convince those people, because they are very much important for the industry. Now, because of the logistic issues, the raw material cost has gone up. So this will take again 2-3 months to settle down these kind of rates. Steel, cement are also going to give the hike. Labor is already on the higher side. Important part is the cash flow. The existing buyers, they are not in a position to pay, or if they are in a position to pay, they are holding back their monies because of this uncertainty. And the banks and NBFCs, they are also not releasing the due installments. And there are certain customers, those who are asking their bankers to hold the the disbursements for their loan, because they are also uncertain about their jobs. So this is the biggest challenge we are finding in the real estate. So let us see, because of the RBI guidelines and RBI, this kind of packages which they have given, if they reaches really to the in the hands of NBFCs and housing finance companies, when they will come to the real consumers or the real estate developers. Because now when we see that 10,000 crore has been given, 70,000 ELSS scheme has come, 30,000 to NBFCs, let it come to the market. So probably 1 or 2 months will be required to actually settle down the things, and when we come to know how much money is available for the real estate developers. Sir, the second question is your understanding of stimulus package of the real estate business. Mr. Jan, should I continue, or will you take one by one?
Sir, you can carry on. You can carry on.
Okay. So far as the real estate stimulus package for the real estate, out of that 20 lakh package, I don't think very big things have come out, but whatever is available, we have to see how much we can utilize out of that. Like one important thing and the most, what I can say is the admirable thing is the extension of timeline for RERA, the 6 months and the further 3 months window given to all the RERA authorities in India. This will give some kind of relief to the real estate developers who are not able to complete their projects because of this COVID period. And after 25th March, what they have written, so RBI has given the moratorium for 3 months earlier. Now in the next when they came on 17th April, they again gave this 3 months moratorium. So total 6 month moratorium is, I think, good enough for the time being. But what they have said about the fresh loans or the operational loans or operating working capital loans, there is a confusion. It's not probably available for the real estate developers. It is available only for the MSME. But we have discussed with the bankers, there is no clear guideline whether it is available for the real estate developer, which was very much required in this time, because these 2-3 months nobody could work, so there was no cash flows. So salaries has to be paid, rentals has to be paid. These operational issues has to be continued. So people need money for this period, and which can be paid as in the case of MSMEs. This thing could have come in the real estate sector also. One good thing they have done is the extension of the CLSS, because many people could not complete their purchases before 31st March 2020, and they have got this 1 year extension for this. But the figure which they have quoted, 70,000 crore, I'm not able to understand that, because one of the reports says that there are 4,58,000 units, and one person gets 2,34,000 for this. This comes to about 10,000 crores. It's not 70,000 crore. If everybody is available, eligible for that. But maybe if we see the counter effects of this and the things which is reflected on the other ancillary things like steel, cement, or laborers, it may go up to manifold. Let us see what these NBFCs do in the next coming period. And the third question which you have posed is what is your action plan to tap the benefits? So immediately what we can do is start talking to the bankers. So what are their plans? So that whenever they are able to float the money in the market, we should be able to prepare the papers and the projections to them. One thing which was the affordable rental housing complexes, though we do not deal in that, but it is a very good idea for the people who are coming from the smaller cities and staying in bigger cities. There is a big issue of the rentals, and when affordable renting scheme, if it comes, so it will be able to utilize the already constructed affordable houses, maybe in the hands of the government, and they are now proposing to the industries, the institutions, maybe the universities also, they can construct on the PPP model and they will be incentivized. So on these things, we should think of whether the rental scheme could work for the developers. So that's what my understanding on this part of RBI and the finance minister. I think, Jansa, I have covered all these things. You can carry on with the new things.
Okay, thank you, Manojji, for sharing your insights. So what I got from your feeling is that the government side, although they are claiming that a lot of benefits has been declared from the real estate developers, but there are a lot of measures which has to be worked out or reworked out so that real estate developers can find these benefits on ground. Okay, thank you, Manojji, for sharing your valuable insights. So now our next thought leader is Shri SV Goyal ji. SV Goyal ji, your video is not coming.
वाह, मेरी तरफ से ऑन है. You have to put it.
नहीं, आपका वीडियो नहीं आ रहा.
I think so. Okay.
Sorry, मैं आपको. So I will just take few seconds. SV Goyal ji is very senior chartered accountant and company secretary and alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. He has more than 33 years of experience and currently he is working with Reliance Industry Limited and he is heading the group company that is a model economic township as full-time director and CEO. I would like to share one thing about this model economic township project, because I have got the opportunity to be associated in some little way. So this is the largest real estate projects of North India. I think very few person knows that this particular project is the largest single real estate project of North India. 8,250 acres are under development. So that is a mammoth real estate project, and SV Goyal ji, through his very seasonal educational and experience background, is selling this project. So over to SV Goyal ji.
Thank you, Jansa, for your kind words. In fact, when I joined this project, I was not knowing a ABCD of anything of the real estate. I had never bought in my life a single inch of land, but I was thrusted upon to come here, live apart. Good afternoon, friends. I'm happy to note that the today's topic has been very aptly chosen. Yeah, these are tough times, trying times, but life goes on. If you look at life of a country is thousands of years, so is a company's life is hundreds of years, and a person's life, individual's life is tens of years, depending on the cycle where he is going at the moment. And this corona or lockdown is just few months, but look at how much chaos, havoc it has created in the system. More so in the minds of the people, and we are seeing the results. People are fleeing. We just can't look at their state of affairs when they are going on the road. And governments across the globe is doling out billions of dollars to prop up the economy once again. I believe, like Jinsa has opened the discussion that the do it before die. So is I very strongly believe that this time will also pass. Friends, I too heard a lot of stories and logic, but very few on positives and lot more on negatives. Friends, being a very focused person on positives, I would like to talk to you only few points today on the positives of this event or post events, what's all likely to happen or what all we can do positively to contribute our bit to bring back the economy on wheels. And particularly in the housing, and that too my focus is today on the affordable housing, which is the need of the hour and which is the uh, trend of the day going on and likely to continue for next couple of years. We have all heard a lot about the work from home, but work from home is pinch. Everybody is feeling pinch of privacy and space constraint today. And that's where the work from home brings the opportunity. Like Corona is here to stay for times to come till some vaccine comes. So I believe that the work from home is the reality. And it may vary from industry to industry and one estimate to another, but truth is it will be part of our life. And this pinch of space and privacy goes up dramatically when we talk of millennium couples both working from home, and the problem further aggravates when their young kids are also attending online education. And this segment, I very strongly believe, could be a critical buyer or upgrading their homes also. So in either way, the demand is likely to come from this segment. Another segment is look at the numbers of the 400 millennials making up a third of the population and 46% of country's workforce. And these urban area couples shall require a much more bigger place for their home to juggle their two work. One is the office, another is the home simultaneously. Very strong change is likely to happen. It is not in the form of the only change in the space requirement, but a very few other necessary element of it, like movement from overcrowded places to safe places. And this is what Mr. Pankaj Jain also talked of, the people moving to the low density areas and hygienic, gated, safe communities, and best of the facilities now will become necessity. Friends, a very important part of the work from home is the communication, data connectivity, which has been incidentally made possible with the efforts of the Jio in last couple of years. Some of you might not be knowing that before launch of Jio in 2016, the India's position ranking in terms of data consumption was 150 odd numbers, and within few months of launch of Jio, it came to number 1. So if we are able to talk seamlessly, discuss seamlessly on video on this platform, the Jio has a huge contribution to it. So we now understood that you need bigger, affordable, less crowded, safe, environmentally sustainable. What it means for planners and developers is a challenge. And there comes an opportunity to move this demand to the areas which are closer to cities, but still really affordable, and in reality can meet all the ingredients required to meet this new demand. Friends, here I would like to say that the METL pitches this segment and this requirement very well, wherein distance will be no longer a challenge and companies will hire their talent beyond pin codes. And since commutation will reduce, you can live and work anywhere. It's not necessarily urban centric cities only, and you can live in a very decent environment along with the cities also. And mind you, this is not a small pie. Affordable housing segment has seen more than 50% of the sales of housing in 2019. Manoj ji also talked about the CLSS. Surely it will boost demand, but I have no clue on the numbers because I found from CLSS portal that only from 2016 to 20, before this scheme was extended, around 250,000 people only have been benefited. So I don't know how many people can in these 10 months get benefited further. But surely, whatever the number is, this will surely benefit and will be able to bridge the gap to fulfill the dream of our Honorable Prime Minister for housing for all. Another very important aspect of the affordable housing, which has been extended in this financial year budget, is the income tax holiday, which will continue to boost supply. And mind you, to my understanding, though I have not developed yet any housing, but this could be 100 to 200 rupees per square feet, which is too huge a saving. Hence, it makes a very base case for the developing this kind of development. Another important point which was touched upon by Mr. Manoj also, I would like to very empathetically talk about the marketing cost. With the digital gaining popularity and augmented reality and virtual reality becoming available at affordable cost, sales through these mediums, video conferencing and payment via payment gateways, and we need to exploit the digital technology fully to develop these newer systems, newer means of marketing and reduce the cost of marketing. Marketing cost, to my mind, sometimes accounts for 5 to 10% of the construction cost. I am not talking about the sales price. So it is a huge, where you pit for the pennies in the construction cost and cut corners in the construction cost. You lavishly spend in the marketing a good amount of money. So we very strongly believe that this is to be saved and is to be passed on to the buyers such that you still make them affordable. And this should become the this should become the new norm for the real estate industry. I often hear that where is the purchasing power? and purchasing power has gone down during the corona period. So how the demand will prop up? Friends, I believe that corona has taught us that there are a lot of expenses which are avoidable, and to live healthy and happy, you don't need lot of expenses and from the material world. And therefore, I very strongly believe that all wasteful expenses will be channelized in home buying, including substantial saving from transportation cost and vacation spending. A very good development on this front is the interest rate reduction. If you look at today's interest rate, this is comparable to the least or best, you can say, in last 2 decades. And EMI versus rent will become very attractive, coupled with the benefit of CLSS for the first time home buyers to afford it. And then comes the question for the developers, the liquidity. You all discussed some couple of 1,000 crore has been given to National Housing Bank, some 30,000 odd crore has been given to our National Housing. But moot question is, where the customer has a confidence, he will come. Money will not be a problem according to me. Money is a problem where customer doesn't have a confidence. So what is today is not a demand shortage, but is a trust deficit. And this trust has, once it comes back, and where the trust is there, demand will come back. My mind works that another area which will work post corona is the senior living. And again, for this kind of opportunity, one need to explore places little beyond the major towns. Lastly, friend, I would like to say that all this can be done because housing is the basic necessity of life, and right to housing and adequate shelter is guaranteed in the Constitution of India. Even Pankaj ji said in the beginning कि सब लोगों को housing का importance समझ में आ ही गया है क्योंकि सब कुछ बंद हो गया पर घर चलता रहा है. Government must lead opening of new areas for real estate development by a combination of appropriately structured PPP and providing trunk infrastructure consisting of road, sewage, water, and electricity, such that in the far-flung areas, if these things are provided, a new paradigm of shift from the urban centric can be developed, and we can stop the rural migration also. Lastly, I would like to say that in this direction, our company is promoting Atmanirbhar, and METL has initiated a offering to industrial clients, first of its kind. Post this announcements, details of which are yet to come, that rental housing and all this can be developed by the worker housing, can be developed by the industrial units. We have currently around 170 units, those who have booked in our development plots, and 10-12 are working with a capacity of 5,000 people working there. So we are shortly in next 1 week or so going to launch the new scheme for the worker housing plots for our exclusive for our industrial units to make them Atmanirbhar in terms of their labor supply. Friends, this subject is very vast and there are a lot of things to talk. Let us hold for the time being and we can discuss further Q&A section. With these words, I thank you once again to organizers, and thank you, Jai Hind.
Yeah, so Goyal Sahab, I think a very important point you have touched upon, that customer connect. Now, because that is a real challenge, because apart from making deliveries happen within stipulated timelines, so to bring the customer on board is really a very challenging kind of thing under current environment. You rightly pointed out that we have to explore new strategies to connect the customer. So hopefully we will cover one deliberation on this subject also, because we are covering 5 sub themes under this our reality web series: government interventions, funding, RERA, about this technology adoption and customer connect. So we will catch for your insight as well to that topic as well, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So now I would invite my next thought leader, Atul Gupta ji. So I will just take few seconds. Atul Gupta ji is fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountant, having more than 25 years of experience. He has rich experience of working in real estate with very good groups like Space Group, M3M Group, and currently he is working as CFO with Gurugram-based Experian Developers, which is a 100% FDI funded project backed by Experian Holding Singapore. So I think the perspective of Atulji is very, very important, because he is handling international investor who is a directly 100% owner of his group. So I invite now Atul Bansalji. Over to you, Atul Bansalji.
Thank you, Jan Sahab. My name is Atul Banchal, not Atul Gupta. So just correcting.
It is a numerology, I believe.
Friends, I think the times are definitely tough, and but being on the developer side, or I always take, like Mr. Jain also said, we have to be positive, because if we don't have now the laxity or time to look for any negative in the market, or look for any kind of excuses, because we hardly have any in the market. Government has tried a bit. They have tried to give some kind of support to the industry. Real estate, I think we're slightly disappointed. We're expecting more, because real estate is second largest job provider in the country. Primarily, see, the biggest challenges India is going to face now is finding job for skilled and unskilled laborers. So real estate definitely would have provided a better platform to them, and with all the reverse migration happening, it's going to be a difficult situation for the country to bring them back on job and see that they continue working in urban areas. So that's definitely going to be a challenge. So challenges are many, but I think Manoj Jain also has covered it. Goel Sahab also touched upon. Pankaj Jain also said few things. It's not easy to project right now that how the market will behave, how we are going to sustain in this market. But I strongly believe that every adversity brings some kind of positivity also. So we have to look for positivity in each of these situations. Find out ways where we can improve ourselves, where we have to innovate, where we can provide solution to the society, where we can bring out solutions which brings value for all of us, for us also, for our stakeholders also, for our industry also, peers also, and for our customers also. So that is very important. We need to have those innovations, and I think innovations is going to happen. We have to find ways and means from this situation only, because this situation is inevitable. I'll put it that it is now on our head, and it is going to be there for some time. So you have to accept this new normal, and you have to work forward on this. So just few thoughts on, I'll touch upon few things which because a lot of things have been touched upon already, so maybe some repetition, but I try to touch upon few things. What I strongly feel is that on a government side, government has started giving some, say they announced a huge package. They're saying that they've given 20 lakh crores, which has many I'll say components. If you see, if you actually decipher the entire financial package, it is into two parts. 74% of it is in a liquidity and credit schemes, primarily for to bring liquidity in the market. 26% is only for monetary and fiscal support. So so putting money in the hands of people who will actually invest in real estate is not there. So if you think today that the customer will come and invest in real estate, that situation has not arisen, and I don't see that it is going to come very soon. But then we'll have to be innovative in that. we'll have to bring maybe some different kind of concept, like we all understand that work from home culture is expanding very fast now. A lot of companies are looking to cut down on the sizes of their offices to allow people to work from home, because that will give them savings in their cost also. Plus they feel that with the new situation, it will be difficult to engage all the employees in the office in short term. So then the innovation comes in. So as a real estate developer, we feel that if you can evaluate properly, we can create more home offices now. So you have to, developer will be innovating. I think that a lot of developers started thinking on direction that we'll have to create maybe slightly instead of 2-bedroom, maybe 3-bedroom flats will be more takers. They'll prefer, all the working class, they'll prefer keeping some area for their kids study room as a study room, or maybe a work room for themselves. In fact, now the demand, what we're thinking even is that when you're creating a club for your society, for your residential colonies, there generally the club is more for a recreational or leisure activity. So now you'll have to maybe create some space for office centers, business centers, and maybe co-working space also. Like few developers have already started working. I was reading one of the article in where Mumbai based and a Bangalore based developer, they started working on the same directions. And I think with there's different component that we create, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. So maybe units with a steady component will be more attractable. So we'll have to bring in those kind of opportunities in the system, where at least we can expect some kind of connect with the existing situation, and maybe connect with the customers. As Mr. Goel also said, right now the problem is not entirely the cash flow. The problem is also the customer expectations, their aspirations. They feel that real estate prices will go down. It will further go down because the market is tough. Real estate are facing the maximum heat in the market. So that particular expectation is creating a lot of hurdles for customers to come and look at the projects. So that is going to take some time, though the market has already, I think, bottomed out. It was already bottomed out before this because of previously demonetization, then GST, and then all the IBC cases. So there was a lot of challenges on the part of developers. So I don't think too much of price correction we can see in short term, because they already have the challenges in their hand. But definitely, if customer thinks that way, then it's going to be difficult for them to come back to the market. I'll say on the challenges that we see on real estate, the real estate challenges are primarily in terms of the revenue, and secondly, definitely in terms of the finances. If you see worldwide, we are a fund. We have projects across many countries. We are majorly in Europe. We have some projects in other parts of the world also. And we see that, there the support of government support is very different than what we find here. So in fact, in terms of bank funding also, here the system is very different. Here, real estate developer is treated as a non-priority sector. When any bank or institution lend to a developer, they have to provide extra for this. So there is an extra provisioning norm for them. So that's why the lending to real estate developers are very high as compared to other countries. I've been interacting with a lot of. We had a project in China also. Been interacting with a lot of Chinese developers also. So there the support is very different. Secondly, in terms of approval processes, in terms of I'll say multiple approvals that the project has to take, it's definitely a much more challenges going forward. When you'll have limitations of traveling, you will have limitations of interacting with officers. You have to bring in those changes. Now the time, I think government has to bring in those kind of changes where at least you can get your approvals at one place, with a limited time frame. And definitely, I think one of the questions that I was reading on the Q&A was that why real estate developer, how real estate developers can start their stall projects when they already suffered huge blow from RERA and demonetization already. So this challenge is definitely going to be huge for developers. So if we can have more streamlined approval processes from the government side, then definitely it will be easier for them to at least continue their work. They can still focus on development, construction, then focusing on the approval side and or running after the approval side. So that is definitely a big support that we need from government side. Like Manoj said, we are also looking for support from NBFC or banks to fund to the projects, because a lot of projects are getting installed in this market. Cash flows are going to be tough. Getting from customers, it will take some time before customer starts paying fully. So banks and NBFC, if they support on time this time, then definitely it will help. It will give a lot of strength to the industry, because this industry, see, end of day, real estate has a very unique tag to it, which is real. So whatever everybody is buying, it's a real buying. So if we get those support from government, definitely we can bounce back in the market, and we can sustain and we can deliver. And need of housing is not going away. Need of housing, and in this market particularly, like Mr. Pankajan said in the opening statement also, need of housing will always remain. If the need of housing is there, then the demand will definitely generate. And with going forward, when people are seeing that they will have to maybe stay more on home, and their strength will be at home, so people will prefer buying. But then they need those kind of assurances and commitments from developer side also, from government side also, which will combine with to deliver a product which will help them. So way forward, we are seeing that new ways of development will come. We are looking forward for innovative products, and with technology is going to play a big role. Jio definitely helped. I'm also operating on Jio, so Goel sir, your company is definitely helping all of us. So if we have to enable, we have to I think provide a lot of technology enabled support in our product that we offer. Commercial going to be tough market going forward. Commercials we are seeing challenges, but residential we are very hopeful. As a company, as a group, we are very hopeful that residential definitely will pick up, and we definitely will be able to come out of the situation. That is what we hope and pray, and we would like to believe that. That's my submission.
You are through, Atulji?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, Atulji, I think you have focus on one very important area, that we have to realign our products, because whatever our product offering were there pre-COVID-19 era. So now they need to revisit, and we have to reconfigure our products to fine tune the post-COVID-19 era. So I think this is very, very important area which you have pointed out. So thank you so much, Atul Bansal-ji, for your valuable insights. So now I would invite Ritik Jassar-ji. Ritik-ji, audible? Yeah. So Ritik Jassar-ji belongs to the promoter family of the Grande Group Meerut, and is actively engaged in day-to-day project development. And he is currently pursuing his studies with SOS University of London. Over to you, Ritik-ji.
Thank you, Jain Saab, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be amongst distinguished panelists, and I'm the youngest panelist in this platform. But I think I do have a unique perspective to offer that none of our distinguished panelists have fortunately had to go through, and that is managing a stalled project, managing a project that does not have access to typical forms of capital that is available to good companies with a solid credit record. So based on that, I wanted to analyze 4 policy measures, since the topic was decoding the stimulus. So I wanted to talk about 3 specific celebrated stimulus that have been given to the industry. Firstly, I'll be speaking about the Lifesaver Moratorium. Secondly, I'll be talking about the much famed but yet invisible stress fund of real estate. And thirdly, I'll be talking about regulatory forbearance, specifically about what further follow-up relief we can get from RERA. And fifth, and if there's time and if I don't overshoot, I'll be talking about what demand would look like post-COVID and which segments of real estate would in fact benefit from the COVID crisis. Firstly, talking about the moratorium, I think it's important to understand what is a moratorium in a typical credit scenario. A moratorium is essentially today a liquidity preservation instrument, but normally it works as an incubation period instrument wherein a certain credit, a certain loan is sanctioned and the principal repayments start over time of say a year or 2 or 18 months. In this 18-month period, 6-month, 1 year period, an asset is allowed to grow and generate enough receivables wherein it can manage its own debt payments or take care of its obligations. But what's unique about the COVID moratorium is there is merely a liquidity relief, which is temporary. The actual problem is not solved, and this is not an incubation period. This is the period of essentially a complete standstill, freezing of supply chains, massive labor reverse migration. So what you have is a breathing period for 6 months where you're not getting a significant amount of work done. So आपका project आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा है, आपके receivables normal time frame में realize नहीं हो रहे हैं, आपको बस जिंदा रहने के लिए एक ventilator period दे दिया गया है. So my suggestion is कि इस moratorium के साथ हमें 2 policy interventions का implement करनी है RBI को और banks को. Number 1 is the one-time restructuring. One-time restructuring has been the topmost demand of leading industry bodies such as CREDAI and NAREDCO. उन्होंने last 2-3 साल से इसको top of their demand रखा कि one-time restructuring दी जाए. उन्होंने ना moratorium मांगा ना कुछ मांगा. अगर आप देखेंगे 2-3 साल one-time restructuring. And why is one-time restructuring the magic pill? Because what it's doing is that it allows you to renegotiate lost time. It allows you to renegotiate irrational interest और terms and conditions जो पहले agree हो गई थी. Current scenario के साथ एक fresh start आपको restructuring offer करती है. पर RBI ने आज तक उसको क्यों नहीं opt करा? क्योंकि evergreening के concerns थे, dressing up of asset quality and consequent failure of the financial institutions that can result. So my suggestion in this is that RBI should work with housing finance companies, should develop a stringent framework for who qualifies for this one-time restructuring, and we should go beyond MSMEs. People who have a solid cash flow, who have been held up due to litigation, 1-year period, 2-year period timelines are not enough. We need to have a solid framework for restructuring of these companies, and even sectoral, where power companies or real estate companies deserve this kind of a restructuring package. And another is, which is I think more plausible, which we will see in the near future, is the reduction of interest rates. Aap moratorium mein 6 mahine, I'll give you an example. Even sitting here at home for 6 months, if you borrowed from an NBFC at 14%, 13%, which a lot of companies have, because they don't have access to banks, which are risk averse now. Look at the kind of costs also that are accruing. It's not a waiver. It's merely, like I said, a breathing period. So what you need to do is you need to rationalize interest rates. If you go with 14%, 16%, you go to ARCs, you're looking at 24%. So what will happen is the banks can feel very good about imposing strategic risk premiums on developers and downgrading their accounts, but they will not be able to realize their money or recover their money. The priority for lenders, home buyers, developers, and regulators should be one thing, and that is project completion. Project completion has to be made the backbone of any policy measure, because we already have a high number of dead bodies piling up in an institution called the NCLT. And there are no takers for fantastic companies, fantastic assets, which stand today as ghost towns. I'll not be taking names, but you're very well aware these were landmarks. The same thing can happen to real estate if urgent intervention in the form of reduction of interest rates and one-time restructuring is not done. And second thing I'd like to talk about is lockdown. Lockdown क्या चीज होती है? And क्या ये नई चीज है जो हमारे को फेस करने को मिल रही है? In my view, रियल एस्टेट वालों के लिए लॉकडाउन कोई नई चीज नहीं है. And why do I say that? एनजीटी का कंस्ट्रक्शन बैन हो जाता है तो हमारा रेगुलेटरी लॉकडाउन हो जाता है, लेबर को खिलाना भी है, होम बायर्स की गाली भी खानी है, एंड वहां पे काम भी करना है अपना, यू हैव टू मैनेज अराउंड विद द डिस्ट्रिक्ट अथॉरिटी आल्सो। तो हम रेगुलेटरी लॉकडाउन फेस करते हैं। सेकंड इज सारा प्रोजेक्ट बना लिया, कस्टमर इज रेडी टू टेक पोजेशन एंड रजिस्ट्री के लिए आप जाओ तो आपकी सर्टिफिकेट बेस्ड कंप्लायंसेस, वहां पे देयर इज अ डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी का लॉकडाउन जो हम फेस करते हैं। So lockdown is not just COVID. In fact, I'll say COVID lockdown is a big mercy. Why? Because इसमें आपकी liability नहीं पाइल अप हो रही, आपको force majeure मिला हुआ है रेरा से, आपको बैंक से समय मिला हुआ है, but banker will not listen that the person at the development authority is not sanctioning the plan despite all compliances, that there is not a single window system right now, that there is no online system right now, or that there is an NGT ban. So we need to understand that real estate unfortunately goes through regularly many lockdowns, and हम हमेशा बड़ी खुशी खुशी फ्लॉन्ट करते हैं कि रियल एस्टेट सेकंड लार्जेस्ट एम्प्लॉयर है और हमने बहुत इंडस्ट्रीज, एलाइड इंडस्ट्रीज हमारे साथ काम करती हैं, पर अनफॉर्चुनेटली उतनी इज्जत रियल एस्टेट को दी नहीं जाती। एंड लेट मी एक्सप्लेन व्हाई आई से यूज सच स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्ड्स। दैट इज बिकॉज agriculture is the largest employer in the country. Look at the kind of support agriculture has, agriculture workers have, the kind of real packages they have, the real disbursals they have in place. You would assume that the second largest employer in the country would also get something real. Instead, what we've had, unfortunately, is a bit of a blame game and a witch hunt and criminalizing provisions. We've not thought about compromise and forbearance. So in that aspect, I think COVID is a fantastic relief and time for introspection for a lot of these parties as well. Now I'll be moving to my third point, which is about the stress fund, which is again big sort of hyped up measure of the government of India. And iski do teen जानता हूँ, I go back and forth to the offices and I'm trying to secure access to this fund. I think it's a fantastic fund. I think 10-12 हजार करोड़ की लिक्विडिटी एक प्लेस में करी उन्होंने रियल एस्टेट के लिए, एक इंटेंट दिखाया। ऐसा इंटेंट बाकी सेक्टर्स में नहीं दिखाया गया है, फंड भी नहीं इकट्ठा करा गया है, टॉप इंस्टीट्यूशंस ने पैसा लगाया। नाउ बट व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम हियर? 3 टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस की मैं बात करूंगा इसमें। फर्स्ट थिंग, जो उन्होंने सबको एलिजिबल कर दिया बट accessible fund किसी को भी नहीं करा. What do I mean by that? Being eligible doesn't necessarily mean you have access to the fund. What they've done is they've done 2 things which are blocking access to the funds. Number 1 is that the first charge on the assets and machinery of the company has to be created of the fund. And number 2, an NOC from an existing lender has to be obtained. So in the normal course of transactions, any company that is engaging with a bank for 20-30 years or since its inception, why would the bank cede charges their first charge or reduce their security cover? Or under what circumstances would they agree to reduce the security cover? It is a highly implausible and problematic thing to pursue with your lender. And it is even worse so if you're an NPA company or a company in insolvency proceedings. You essentially, again, you have access on paper, but an NPA company that has not reached the settlement, that is still in the process of negotiating and fighting it out with the bank, is not able to access this fund. You can't say, I will access this fund and I will not repay you. I will use this to complete my project, and you still cede your charge on the assets and machinery. That is unfortunately not how it works. And the LIFO method, last in first out method, in this fund needs to be rethought. So, and what is a stressed project also needs to be defined. You're essentially giving the fund, making the fund, but not doing any disbursals. It's very sad to share, 200-300 projects जिन्होंने apply करा, मैं North Zone की बात कर रहा हूँ सिर्फ, उनमें से भी very few have gotten sanctions. And to the best of my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, till date, not a single disbursal has happened from this fund. So disbursals need to be made the priority. You need to have, I believe a good remedial is that This information should be made public, quarterly reports on how much funds have been disbursed, strict guidelines, not just about getting the funds together, but also, I mean, my hope is that on disbursal, you should have strict timelines and milestones that should be adhered to. And my final point I'd like to talk about is demand post-COVID. It's all not negative. Like I said, there are, in this special lockdown, we still have some relief from our, liabilities that were in place. Post-COVID, I see the growth of, again, even during COVID, I see a massive growth of the e-commerce sector. A big trend that was taking off in India was of warehousing, logistics, data centers. This will further get accelerated. We will have much more demand in these new segments. These supply chain disruptions have, like was very well pointed out, कि हमारा product design change हो गया. The type of product that we've been making has also changed, right? But another thing is the type of supply chain we would also have has changed. You're not necessarily looking at bringing heavy equipment to the site or sourcing these bags of cement. You would also consider things like prefabricated material now, which we are considering. We are in the active process of considering as even a very small company. So you would have to rethink your supply chain, your construction materials. And thirdly, in terms of products, I think rather than having, you would also rethink your development of the projects wherein you would have integrated industrial areas or industrial parks, small clusters, may various kinds of developments would take off, because I don't see the COVID hangover going off anytime soon. And lastly, about regulatory forbearance, I do think that we need to understand that a package and regulatory forbearance are two different things. There is a tendency to call anything a package. I'm a company getting my own GST refund, it's a package. I'm getting more time to pay liabilities where interest is accruing, it's a package. So I think that needs to be differentiated. And these numbers need to be verified, as in what is a package and what is regulatory forbearance. And to conclude, I think the regulator has been extremely supportive. The government of India has showed intent, but that intent needs to be followed up with action. And I'll conclude with something Jain Saab told me when I first met him. And it's a beautiful thing which is relevant now, that Ritik ji, a delay is not a default. And that's the spirit that the regulator, that developers, and that home buyers need to understand. And they are understanding. They have been extremely cooperative. That delays are not necessarily defaults. There is a lot of story and context and situation that goes inside a delay. So they should not be viewed as defaults. And there should be a cooperative stance across that should be followed. And I am very positive about the future of real estate. And thank you, Jain Saab, for having me here.
Thank you, Ritik ji. So I think you have touched upon very important point of the funding. So means you have given some kind of tailor of our funding session. We will about to have as a independent session on funding, and we are about to call some leading experts, including SBI Ventures, including some other players, to explore that how we can explore the selling the stuck projects. So we will definitely have that session and try to explore the strategies that how our stuck projects, stuck real estate projects can be further explored to take it forward. Thank you, Ritik ji. So now I would invite my last thought leader, but not least, Naval Bajaj ji. So Naval Bajaj ji, chartered accountant and certified internal auditor from IIA USA. He has worked with leading MNCs during last 14 years of his career, and currently working as head of corporate audit and assurance, MD office of Yokogawa India Limited, Bangalore. He is also part of think tank team of Bharat Vitt Salahkar Samiti, a leading non-profit organization engaged in contribution of nation building through various economic policy related initiatives. Over to you, Naval ji.
Thank you, Pankaj ji. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to contribute in this invigorating session. And I think I've been listening very keenly all so far, and I think I have become more knowledgeable about real estate. This is my passion, although my profession doesn't correlate directly to the real estate sector. But as you are aware, I have been working as a volunteer as well as in the think tank for this sector. So I'm really happy to join this discussion. Definitely, this is a very challenging time. Our GDP growth, as has been rightly mentioned earlier also, is only 4.18%, which has like 11-year low in India's history. So despite all the odds, we are still better than other countries. But yes, it's a very, very challenging time. Considering that real estate is the second best employer after agriculture, and also one of the leading sectors in the GDP, definitely this sector needs a lot of focus, a lot of discussion has to happen. When we see the newspapers today, I was surprised if you look at the business line or the leading economic newspapers, not many articles are being written around this sector, and that means that there is a lot of need of discussions and open-minded discussions to revive this sector. So I find that is deficient right now, and I think you have taken a right step in that direction. There was a discussion earlier about the trust part of it, and I think one of the reasons why a lot of debate is not happening openly is because in the recent time, especially on the residential sector, there have been certain taboo subjects relating to real estate. Especially, there have been cases where people have been found of doing diversion of funds. People have been accused of, not meeting the promises that they made to the buyers. And I think because of that, a lot of image building is now required to come back to the gear. There are a lot of good players. There are a lot of players who are really trusted, and there are certain bad fishes, just like in any other sector. But I think the bad fishes took over the media coverage and all the other things in the recent times, and that is why one of the reason is I think that this discussion and debate is not happening that much. That's what I feel. Coming to the severity of the impact of this particular issue, which is a worldwide pandemic, I think the impact is different from location to location and from developer to developer. If you talk about the impact in Delhi NCR vis-a-vis Bangalore or Mumbai, I think there will be different. Yes, there is an impact and there is an adverse impact, but it is different from location to location. Second thing is, it is different from developer to developer also. So for example, I was reading Godrej Industries announcement that they don't have any cash flow challenge. They have ample cash, and they are planning to invest into land banks 5,000 crores to 6,000 crores in the coming 2 to 3 years. In fact, they have declared that in the last 15 days of March fortnight, they were able to generate around 800 crores of money by selling. So I think if you take that example versus some others which are not getting money at all, I think there's a very diverse portfolio we are looking at, and the reasons are different. So what it comes out is that not everything is bad in the sector. What I see is that there could be a consolidation in the sector that will coming at a macro level. I'm talking not as an individual particular company, but what could happen over a period of time is that the small and mid-size developers might get collaborated with the bigger ones who have bigger pockets, who can help them sustain. And I think that is the going forward way, because if you see all the lenders, like especially the relating to housing, the HDFC is a leading lender. They are saying that they are hoping to get a lot of activity back by the Q4 of this financial year. So they are expecting around 85% to 90% of their lending will be revived by the end of this year. So that is a very positive news. In fact, one of the other fact I would like to share with the audience is that 79% of HDFC's customers did not opt for moratorium. That is another important aspect, because it shows how important real estate is. Because if you see, real estate is a real asset, and everyone wants his home to remain with him, and no one will default on the home payments, home loan payments, unless and until it's more secure in comparison to others. So I think I agree with all the other panelists who spoke about that the demand is there. In fact, it is going to increase further. On the other hand, I think Ritik raised a very good point about NBFCs. But if we see NBFC data, Edelweiss has said that NBFC's moratorium is 1/3 of their portfolio right now. So 35% to 38% of their clients have opted for moratorium. So does that mean that the profile of the clientele is not as good as compared to the banks? Now it remains an open question to me. I don't know about it, but I'm just raising a point. There are always choke points of stress in any economy and any sector, and I think real estate will definitely come out of it, because the key fundamentals remain intact. In terms of liquidity, I would like to mention that yes, all the sectors, if you talk about automobile or all the other big sectors, everywhere industry has been expecting some kind of demand related package. But the fact is government has limited resources. Although I'm not a government spokesperson, but I was reading that government GST revenue went down in March by 87%. So given this kind of a situation, I think government will also have very limited to do in terms of giving a cash incentive on demand side. Yes, definitely we can think about removing the operational challenges. Now, just to share with you, because I'm also part of some economic think tank activity related to the banking sector, I realized that there is a very complex process that goes around in formulation of the policies when it comes to giving the exact shape to how the economic stimulus package will work. So, for example, the policy will first need to be drafted by the government. Then it has to be sent to the board of directors. Board of directors need to consult all the general managers in all the regions. Then general managers need to provide their feedback. It has to go to their board once again. Then board has to then do a final consultation, and after that the instructions will reach all the branches. So this takes a hell lot of time. Now, given that the announcement was mostly made, I think, around 13th or 14th of May, if I'm not wrong. There are already certain banks which have formulated their policies. And what I learned from my colleagues is that in those 15 days, it is a very fast pace, because given the past, I think it used to take 2 to 3 months. Okay, so I think government has that will to make it fast, but there are operational challenges, and we all need to support them in getting through. Another point I would like to make is related to which I think got a little touched, but not in detail. I think if you see the entire economic stimulus package that has been announced, the focus of the government is towards the agriculture, towards the non-metro, towards giving food processing units, and making the economic activity in a way shift towards the villages. So I think going forward in a midterm, I'm saying maybe the real estate sector also needs to focus on that side, because that is going to play a very important role. And in terms of I think already this point is touched, that there will be a demand for a bigger area for especially in the residential sector, because as they say that there could be a Zoom room now which will be required, maybe 2 Zoom rooms may be required in a home in comparison to 2 car parks. So I have seen so far people fighting with the builder that no, I need 2 or 3 car parkings. Maybe now people are going to ask, now I need 2 or 3 Zoom rooms. So I think this is a clear change in the customer behavior, and there could be some alternative usage which I would like to point out. So for example, hospitals. So there are people who are who can foresee that hospitals are in demand. So if there is a property which is not finished or which is not selling, can we convert that into a hospital bed? area or a COVID specific property in the short term, this can be seen. Then another thing is warehouses. So supply chain is getting disrupted, and we don't know because of COVID when the lockdown will open, when again government will have to reinstitute it. So every industry, including my own company, is basically looking at local resources, local supply chains and local warehouses. So there is a possibility to explore whether in the short term we can convert our existing properties which are lying idle to be used as warehouses. And one important thing is the industrial clusters. And I think already Mr. Srivallabh already touched upon that, and I was very happy to learn that he's moving very fast on this. And I think that is going to be one big change in terms of real estate sector, because it's going to create a lot of new opportunity and avenues. At last, towards the conclusion, I think I would like to touch upon two key points. One thing is that right now, whatever residential properties are in place, maybe they are beyond the reach of the people. And the people who can afford them, they have actually ended up investing in more than what they can buy. So one person who can afford has got 4 or 5 properties, and that is why he's stuck. And then there are other people who cannot even reach that 1 crore or 2 crore, kind of ticket size. So I think going forward, there is a challenge to bring those properties in the reach of the targeted customers, and especially on the middle class, especially on the ones who don't own a home, who are the first home buyers. I think they are the ones who are going to thrive this sector going forward, instead of pure luxury flats or very big high ticket size. Last but not the least, I like the suggestion of in my personal capacity, the one time restructuring and reduction on interest rates, and especially on the operational side. And in fact, I would like to invite the August panelists that we should have a separate discussion in a closed meeting. Maybe we can do that to the BVSS economic think tank, and whatever operational challenges are there, we will be more than happy to take your suggestions to the right levels of government, whatever best we can do. But most important part is the trust factor. I think still there are challenges. There are certain builders who are really trusted by the buyers, especially in the residential sector. But there are certain developers who are still not communicating to the buyers. They are in courts, they are in RERA courts. There are too many liabilities that are getting created. So there is a need of dialogue, and that dialogue should be towards the resolution. And I think that factor is still missing in many of the complexes, especially in the NCR. So that has to be worked at. And last but not the least, I would say that this whatever direction or package has been announced by government, it is giving a direction to us, and now it is on us how we move towards that direction. I would now conclude, Pankaj-ji, with this my thoughts, and if there are any questions, then they can be taken on.
Yeah. Thank you, Navalji. I think you have put all together very different perspectives. So that was the role which I was expecting from you. Because despite not from the real estate industry, from the non-real estate background, you are able to put lot of perspectives, lot of context. So I think that will definitely add value, because the real estate industry also needs so many perspectives from the customer end, from the public end, and from the perspective of the stakeholders, other stakeholders. So you have touched upon all these points very in a very crisp manner. So now I have 2 open questions. So quickly, just before wrapping our, now this one question is also answered. Let me see. Okay, so now I have one open question which we can go ahead. How, this is from the anonymous attendee, how real estate developers can start their construction projects where there is a labor shortage and issues related to material availability. So who would like to take this question? I am giving this option to all panelists. You can raise your hand and I will give this. Yeah, okay, Ritik.
Right. So see this. There are there is something that you need to understand about this question is that right now, the problem is that a lot of these approvals are on paper. For example, I'll give you the example of Meerut. While even in red zones construction has been allowed, there are a lot of restrictions that are still in place about transportation of material locally, intercity and interstate, that are still in place. So the only option is that you do the type of construction activity wherein material can be sourced locally and engage the labor that is already present on site. Beyond that, at this point in time, specifically in red zones, it's difficult to do a mass mobilization of either labor or material.
So I think there is no question left from the attendees.
Pankaj, can I add something to what Kritikji shared?
Can add. Yeah.
It is not a solution, but what I hear from my friends, especially the NGOs who are working on the ground and trying to give relief to the labor sector during the COVID times, they are saying that there is a lot of labor that is there, especially there in Delhi, which they want to go home basically, and people are trying to retain them. And on the other hand, in the real estate sector, especially in the NCR region, in Gurgaon and Noida, we have a shortage. So I don't know, but can there be a match done? Because their skill mapping, what I understand, has already been done.
So it is really a very, I think fruitful discussions we had with all our thought leaders, and I can still see that so many attendees are still there and they are listening all our thought leaders. So I think that great value addition which has been made by all our thought leaders. So if you have any kind of concluding remarks, if you would like to share any thoughts, so I think quickly you can share. Any one of you would like to please raise your hand.
I'd just like to add one last thought on this, is that we see a lot of questions also, a lot of chat also that was going at, and I think we need to understand the pain that a lot of customers have faced, or maybe a lot of people have faced in India, is that on account of what their main question is what they're expecting going forward, how they're expecting real estate companies to be going forward. So that is going to be definitely, that will define how the industry will be after maybe few months or maybe a couple of years. So it is important that we come I think Mr. Jasser also said, that we need to come out and we have to communicate well with our customers, give them all the informations in hand, that whether they're expecting any kind of delay now on account of labor shortages, or maybe delay in material, or maybe on any account, on account of cash shortages, government policies, maybe delay from due to this COVID situation. So that we need to, communication is going to be very important, going to be key for the industry. And because we've faced a lot of heat in the past, we've been on the receiving end from a lot of quarters. So we need to be slightly more transparent now, bring more better values, and bring more values for our customer. So that is going to be a key for us to survive and sustain and maybe excel in going forward in the market.
So Goel Sahab, I will come to you, and Manoj, I will also. Now I'm seeing one hand raised by Mr. Parag Shirmane. Parag is ex-feedback from expert feedback team. Parag ji, I am just unmuting you. You can just ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Thanks for having me. I would like to first thank everybody for bringing such nice points, and it was really nice to hear from all the panelists. I'd like to add one more point, which is on a positive side for all real estate developers, that not only there are two types of movement of people which is happening. One is a lot of laborers which are moving from the metro cities to their homes. At the same time, there is a lot of shift of people from outside India who are moving to India. That's a very big benefit for all the real estate people to catch up on, because a lot of people who are moving back to the home country need their homes. So that's one point which I wanted to say. Second is, one point which, with due respect, I would like to not, which says, understand is where you said we have delayed but not defaulted. I think we should come out of that concept, because that is where the trust belongs. That is where the people want the trust of the builders, that you are not delaying our projects. That is the basic area. If we delay and think that we have delayed and not defaulted, that means we are giving ourselves a clean chit. We should correct ourselves with due respect to all.
Okay, Parag ji, thank you so much. Now we also have Gopal Arora ji, so let me also give him opportunity. Please unmute yourself, Gopal ji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jain. I heard with great interest the interaction. Many new things, came to my knowledge. I just wanted to know that you see, the real estate sector expects and it needs also the support from the government and the stimulus also. But the question which disturbs my mind is about, the trust deficit between the developers and the customers, on issues of delays, on unreasonable demands, etc. And that is why the litigation between the developers and the consumers are increasing by the day. And unfortunately, the legal process here is so complex that it takes, a lot of time for an ordinary customer, to get justice. And builder, of course, has a, strong financial and otherwise muscle also on that. So are the builders and developers coming forward to settle the issues with their, customers? I hardly see that thing, I find that most of the time the customers is, they are harassed, if they don't get, a fair treatment. If you can just, if I can have, some words from the developers, what are their policies for settling issues of these types with their customers?
Okay, thank you, Gopal ji. Thank you, Gopal ji. So who would like to take this question? Okay, Manoj ji, I'm just unmuting you. Okay, Manoj ji. Yes, Manoj ji.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I have seen this question 2-3 times on the chat portion also. Are you getting my voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I believe, what many of our fellow developers have, have kind of a mistake they have done. There is a system of discussion through the so-called customer relations department. And the customer relations department, we do not keep, good people or those who do not communicate properly the ideas of the management. And when it reaches to the higher management, by that time the things are, have become that kind of mess. But I believe there has to be a system wherein during the process of construction and during the process, if there is any delay or if there is any problem in the project, it should properly be communicated to the customer and at the right time. When we delay it, it creates kind of confusion, and then we create a lot of, we see the groups on the different platforms. And when developers actually come to solve the problems, lot of, this kind of groups become. I think we should deal with the customers properly. We should call them, we should discuss them and transparently explain everything. Since 2014, we are facing, when you see this real estate industry, 2014 onward, the real estate prices has not gone up. The demand, and there is a lot of supply available, but still, those projects who are delivering on time and the projects of the management, those who are explaining the problems to their customers, they are still managing the things. And the trust definitely has to be managed well in time. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. This Goel Saab would like to share something, because although our time has gone, but since there are a lot of attendees are still there, so I don't mind to take this further 5-10 minutes more. Yeah, Goel Saab, go ahead.
I would just like to mention very briefly about the trust deficit and the what corrections need to be taken to improve this. The couple of people have suggested communication. Yes, I agree. Communication is the best form. But what I am worried personally, let me tell you, at my end is I divide this trust deficit in pre and post RERA. We all agree that there were lots of issues pre-RERA projects which were launched in funfair without preparation, without financial arrangement. People did overbooking, short booking, whatever name you call it, diversion of funds and all that. But my concern today is project launch post-RERA. Okay, and I did couple of studies, particularly of Gurgaon market, and I am really worried that even in the post-RERA projects, there is a huge delay. And if that happens, God forbid if that happens, where all the trust deficit, trust of the customers, how this industry will be able to get restore the trust of the customers? This is a $1 million question. I have no answer, but I did some study that how many projects were launched post-RERA and where they are going, where they are at the moment. And I find that couple of them are delayed. And that's the $1 million question.
Yeah. So, yeah, Ritik ji, go ahead.
Just a minor clarification and point, sir. I completely agree with the panelists when they say that developers should not absolve them by saying that delays are not defaults. But the intricacy I was trying to explain at that time was that often this is a sector-wide issue. There are good developers and bad developers. Certainly, the sector has its problems. But the idea I was trying to say is that certain force majeure incidents that regularly happen. So real estate sector is the first casualty in many mitigating circumstances because of its complex supply chain. So access today in trust deficit to ideas such as conciliation forum authorities that are operating in RERA, wherein an informal solution, but in the presence of a RERA member, can be negotiated. So there are again a lot of trust building exercises and institutions also available if both the developer and the customer are willing to sit across the table and not escalate it further. And we've had some success with that. And secondly, to specifically talk about the delay needs to be analyzed. All delay cannot be dismissed as a default because again, there are very real costs that the project faces, and more importantly, the home buyers face if there is a delay. So all delays need to be analyzed and segregated, which is why I said even in one-time restructuring or even in relief packages, there need to be important preconditions and track record systems that need to be in place as to how and when this should be given. And the final concluding remark is that while we've had a lot of headline management and announcements out of a lot of relief packages, my sincere hope is that the transmission also happens not just to the developer community, but to all eligible businesses. We've seen with the moratorium, unfortunately, and CREDAI is fighting this out in the Supreme Court right now, that a lot of developers have not been given the moratorium. And now the Supreme Court has again sought a response of the RBI. So I do hope that the bankers cooperate and the RBI strictly ensures that transmission also of these forbearance packages happens. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much. Now Manoj ji has already, I think, discontinued. So thank you, Manoj ji. Thank you, Shri Vallabh Goel ji. Thank you, Atul Bansal ji. Thank you, Naval ji. Thank you, this Ritik Jassar ji. So I think that we have very faithful, session, and we are also intending to have knowledge paper based on the views which have been shared by all the thought leaders. So our team would also prepare some knowledge paper, and that knowledge paper we would share in the public domain for the reference of the all stakeholders. And last but not least, Manoj ji, thank you so much. I think for some time you were not there. So thank you so much, Manoj ji. And I also thank all my participants who, despite we are now running half an hour late for our targeted timeline, but still lot of our participants are still there, so that can show their zeal for the insights from our thought leaders. So thank you all, thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I can only say formal happy weekend. Although there is every day weekend for us in lockdown, but now I can say for that a formal happy weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.